Hey guys, what's up? How's it going? This is Enrique, and I wanted to go over kind of a redesign of Gir. Gir from Invader Zim. I'm going to be doing this in pen, and this is essentially going to be one of my just a sketchbook sketch. You know what I mean? But I would let's say redesign him to make him a little bit more realistic. You know, and the only purpose of this is entertainment. You know what I mean? That's kind of it. Putting your own kind of spin on it. I want his general. I will try to talk through the design of what I'm thinking as much as I can, and then for some periods I will probably fast forward it and things like that. So his body's the most complicated part of him, I would think. His head is a little bit simpler. I'm trying to figure out what design I want to his body. Like, I want it to be a little bit, the proportions not to be exactly like the show, but pretty close, so he's recognizable. Top of his head, you don't really see the top of his head because you're looking up at him. So, for perspective's sake, I'm gonna have because he has like a rounded head. If you look down on Gir's head from the top, it'd be kind of a round circle. So I'm gonna take advantage of that. Put that up top. See if the camera's right. Yeah. Camera's up top. And I'm going to be doing the... I might actually be turning this occasionally. Because what I want to do is I want to start turning a couple of things up top here. I want to give him another layer. And that's to add a little bit of complexity. I'm going to pull this down a little bit, thinking of the center line of his head. He essentially has these kind of binoculars sticking out of his eyes. Or his eyes are really binoculars. One thing to really be careful with his eyes is the ellipses. You know what I mean? They have to be a little bit at least near perspective. And that's something that a lot of people are going to struggle with. I'm going to throw his mouth over here. And right now what I'm doing is I'm doing kind of a very faint, I'm using the ballpoint pen, and I'm faintly putting stuff in here. I might even give him like an Iron Man look, we'll see. I'm faintly putting stuff in. It's like stuff that I can probably, obviously it's a pen so you can't erase, but I can kind of push harder and make it seem as if it's not there by concentrating on other lines, you know, to kind of get rid of them. It's a little bit different than pencil, where pencil I could easily erase. I'm going to give him a mouth. And I'm trying to be a little bit more careful with this too. When you talk about redesigns and maybe slightly more realistic designs, you try to think of like what are the large shapes within this character. You know what I mean? This character design. There's going to be a couple of dominant shapes, nothing too even. His obvious dominant shape is his head. His neck is on a swivel joint, right? I believe it's a swivel joint. No, not swivel. I think it's it's in a circle. You know what I mean? He goes on a kind of complete circle. Some things I'm drawing darker, some are not. He has a rotator cuff joint right here, like kind of a ball joint, they make it seem like, on both sides. For the ball joint, they're held into place. If I was to actually show you over here on the left, a ball joint, like a ball and socket joint, tends to be obviously a ball shape, but it's held in by these small plastic rings on the one end. That's kind of like these little wedges, I'm sorry, that how to hold it in. So let's just say it's a flat. That ball joint's touching that flat surface. This flat surface right here is going to have small wedges sticking out so that it holds the ball in place. Oops. Excuse the a little bit off in perspective, but and they're going to have those throughout the whole thing, you know, throughout the back as well. And see, these little wedges kind of hold that ball socket joint. If you ever take your like a toy apart, there's a lot of ball and socket joints on there. If you ever take that apart, you'll kind of see that. It's something that's supposed to hold it there. You know what I mean? It's essentially kind of hugging it, so that, but it can move, like I said, all over. So just kind of remember that. That's what I'm trying to do with his arm here. I think they might have done that in that movie Chappie as well. I'm not totally sure. Normally these things are internal though, you don't see them. I'm just going to kind of make an indication of them on top of his kind of little armor that he has. And like I said, I'm designing this not so that it functions, but just so that it, you know, mildly might look like it functions. He has kind of a riveted arm, I believe. Trying to think of the hand positioning first. And he had tiny, basically, little tiny hands that didn't really function in the cartoon, right? They're real tiny, they're like little, they look like little socks. Again, I'm just kind of faintly putting the stuff in so that later I can do that. I'm slowly building it up, very similar to like a photograph. I like to, you know, like one of those old photographs, I believe they call it a Polaroid camera. When you took a picture of it, it would take like 30 seconds to actually generate the image. The image would just pop up. It would come slowly, right? And kind of maybe I'm not sure what you call that. It's like the joint in the door. I forget what you call them. Just like a hinge joint, I believe. Right, hinge joint. There's lower body. Nothing good. Going straight across. Lower waist. Usually a ball joint for the leg. His legs are just triangles in the cartoon, but I'm going to make them more tube-like here. And again, everything's very faint still. These ellipses are going to be down. I want him to kind of be stable, so I'm going to give him maybe kind of like toes that come out, like all sides, like it's grasping the floor. I'm trying to think of perspective the whole time, even though like my perspective is a little odd, but I'm going to try to like think of that the entire time I'm doing this. I'll go back to the head as soon as I can. I'm trying to make sure these feel like they're sitting on the same plane. You know what I mean? Like on the floor, like they're grounded. Because I know some people seem to struggle with that. Arm. Like when Gir, I really liked when Gir kind of went into that military mode thing. You know what I mean? Like he would just be controlled. Almost mind controls, like back to the way he's supposed to function, because he's kind of a goofy version of I guess factory made. Not factory made, but I guess he's a goofy version of like these mass-produced robots that they have, right, in Zim's planet. I'll give him like a little gun on that side. Let's get back to his face because that's the main part of it. So, going up here, and I'm trying to think of certain design patterns. In the show, obviously, this is totally blank, the top of his head. I'm trying to just throw it to make it look a little bit more streamlined. Not in a streamlined, like, I don't know how to say it, more futuristic, more complex. The way maybe a society would kind of build a little helper robot. I'll line them up. Boom, boom. Get up for a second. Look back. Pulling this. Want to make it even further back. Another layer to his face. Putting that there. Another circle, that pattern. I'm probably gonna make this all glass. This one's going to be facing a tiny bit more at me. One of the key things here would be to stay kind of loose. The more you tighten up, the more you tense up your hand and you have less control. now I'm gonna try to fast forward, and I'll talk to you guys at the very end.